Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the entrance of the Oklahoma State University Spring and Summer 2016 degree candidates from the College of Human Sciences and the College of Engineering, Architecture, and Technology. for the entrance of the platform party.
Please join me in
thanking the OSU Pipes and Drums, led by Pipe Major William Tetrick. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Burns Hargis, president of Oklahoma State University, and I'd like to welcome you to OSU's 133rd commencement ceremony. Please remain standing and join in the singing of our national anthem, to be led as always by Charles Rich, accompanied by the OSU Brass Quintet, and that'll be followed by our state song. Please be seated. Thank you, Charles. First, I'd like to recognize the members of the OSU Emeriti Association, which is made up of our retired faculty. They greeted you as you entered today with the printed programs. We really appreciate them continuing their service to OSU. Let's thank them now. And we're very pleased to have a member with us today, a member of the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education. This is his third commencement ceremony today. So he gets the Iron Man Award from Newkirk, Ike Glass. It's also my distinct pleasure to introduce the members of the OSU Board of Regents who are with us today and invite them to stand as I call their names. Which will be not too tough because there's only two of them. First of all, from Elk City, our chair, Joe Hall, from whom you'll hear in just a moment, and from Guthrie, Rick Davis, and the Chief Executive Officer, Jason Ramsey. Thank you all for being here. At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the OSU administration who are here. We'll applaud them as a group as well. The Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs, Gary Sandifer. Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Gary Clark. Our Vice President for Research, Kenneth Sewell. Vice President Institutional Diversity, Jason Kirksey. our Dean of Libraries, Sheila Grant Johnson, our Dean of the Honors College, Keith Garbett, and Cheryl Tucker, who is the Associate Provost and Graduate College Dean. Thank you all for being here. I'd now like to ask our board chair, Joe Hall, to bring greetings to our degree candidates, followed by greetings from our faculty council chair, Stephen Clark, and that will be followed by our immediate past president of the Student Government Association, Mr. Kyle Hilbert. Joe?
Thank you, President Hargis. This is our third ceremony today, so we're going to get this thing started. We had a competition going, and the most enthusiastic ceremony wins a prize. So, you guys ready? All right. Getting ready for a full basketball arena. So, everybody, oh, yes, you, Cowboys. Well, I think it's obvious y'all won, so everybody here go by Athletic Director Mike Holder's office Monday and get your free gift, free tickets. Welcome, graduates, family, and honored guests. We appreciate everybody being here, celebrate this great event. We're honored to have a good Oklahoma kid from Grove, Oklahoma, Tim Dubois, who's had a tremendous musical career in Nashville, and he'll be bringing our message later. Didn't have so good of an OSU career, but's had a great music career here, so he's a pleasure to hear. In my day at OSU, which I was figuring up out there is getting closer to 40 years ago, graduates here were from Hydro, Poto, Godibo, Anadarko, and Arapahoe, and Idaho. Okay? Let me tell you what's here today. Today, this is our OSU. This campus has a student from every 77 counties in the state of Oklahoma. We have 50 states represented on this campus. Today, at this ceremony, there's 49 states graduating. Kid from Vermont never got out of the English comp, so he didn't make it. 54 countries graduating today. How about that? You were the largest freshman class to ever come on this campus. Congratulations. You've truly elevated our institution. The most diverse freshman class, 30% minority, the most degrees granted, approaching 6,000, all-time undergrad enrollment, all-time enrollment on the OSU Stillwater campus. Who would have thought that we would be a national champion in trumpets and that we'd been to a bowl game every year you'd been here? Been a great run. We had a great leader in President Hargis and the first cowgirl, Ann. Been a pleasure for everybody, great harmonizer to every facet of our institution. We're glad to have him. Thank you, President Hargis. He's a little tired today, too. Graduates, we're here to honor you. We thank you for choosing Oklahoma State, and we commend you for completing your goal. We're here to celebrate. We thank your family, we thank your friends and supporters, we thank the faculty, administration, and staff who have all worked so hard to make this day happen. You have made OSU America's brightest orange, and for that we're thankful. Go Pokes.
I'm incredibly blessed. What can I say? So good afternoon. On behalf of the faculty at Oklahoma State University, we want to take this opportunity to congratulate you and your family on this special day. Of all the successes at OSU, from accomplishments on the athletic field to helping the citizens of our state solve problems to enhance their lives, this commencement day that occurs only twice each year is no doubt our most important and significant success as an institution. The entire OSU community has supported you during the last few years, and it is with pride and immense satisfaction that we watch you walk across the stage today. In a few short moments, you will be among the less than 10% of the world's population that has earned a bachelor's degree, and we welcome you to this community of scholars. We encourage you to enjoy this moment and look forward to watching you make a positive impact in our world. And on a side note, if after graduating you see us at Food Pyramid or a sporting event, Walmart, etc., don't run away. Don't be afraid to say hi. We may not always remember your name, but I can assure you that we'll remember your face. It is you, the students, that make this such a very, very special place to work. Again, take some time to soak up the moment, celebrate this occasion with your friends and your family who have supported you over the years, and don't forget that tomorrow is Mother's Day. Congratulations, and of course, go Pokes.
Fellow graduates, we've made it. As I began reflecting for the brief remarks this afternoon, I started to think about the lessons that Oklahoma State University has taught us. And I think the greatest lesson that OSU has taught us is the value of time and just how quickly it goes by. It seems like just yesterday we were moving into the residence halls. It seems like just yesterday we were cramming for a final that we should have studied weeks in advance for. Some of us, that actually was yesterday. Just yesterday, Mojo's didn't exist, and we had Giuseppe's. Time is important, and through it, we've seen the highs with Bedlam wins, as well as the lows of the tragedies that have befallen our campus far too often. But through it all, fellow graduates, our time in Stillwater may be coming to an end, but our journey as cowboys has just begun. As we turn our tassels and become a permanent part of this family and sit on the other side of Boone Pickens Stadium, let's cling to our faith, live with no regrets, and never forget to live in the present. As Theodore Roosevelt once said, do what you can with what you have where you are. Thanks, and go Pokes.
Thank you, gentlemen, for those words of encouragement. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Carol Jones, who is the Faculty Council Vice Chair, who served as our University Flag Marshal today and didn't fly away. Congratulations, Carol. Thank you. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. At the first program this morning, we had the honor of presenting Tim Dubois with an honorary doctorate of humane letters. So that's Dr. Dubois now, and we're delighted that he has joined us this afternoon. Tim is a true OSU cowboy with both a bachelor and a master's degree in accounting from OSU. Following college, he spent time in the accounting field and in teaching, but soon, though, he followed his dream to Nashville, where he has had a long and very successful career in the recording industry, both as a songwriter and as a producer. 5 songs that Tim has co-written have been #1 hits, and he's received 2 Grammy nominations. You've most likely heard of some of the country artists that he has produced: Alan Jackson, Vince Gill, Brooks Dunn, Brad Paisley, to name a few. In 2015, Tim was inducted in the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. He's the past president of the board of directors of the Country Music Hall of Fame. Tim has also been recognized by his alma mater and inducted in the OSU Hall of Fame and most influential graduates of the Spear School of Business. It now brings me great pleasure to invite Dr. Tim Dubois to come forward for his remarks.
It was quite an honor this morning to get an honorary doctorate, but what I want to talk to you about today a little bit is how close I was to getting that real doctorate, and how you feel like right now you kind of know where your life is. Some of you do, some of you don't, but some of you know what the path ahead is. And my story today, I hope, will show you that that you want to dream big and you want to plant big, but you really today, you might not have a big enough imagination to even understand where life will take you as you go forward. I'm starting my timer this time. Last time I didn't start my timer. I was told that I was under the acceptable time because they were counting the number of people that yawned, and I was under the level that was there, but I'm going to make sure this time we don't go over the yawn limit. So, irony. 1977, that's 49 years ago. No, I'm sorry, that's 39 years ago. What is my major? I can't remember. 39 years ago, I was right here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I was one class away from having all my coursework done in accounting. I lacked a macroeconomics course and that little thing they call a dissertation. But I was across town in a rented house over on Stanley Street, making plans to leave OSU. That comes from the thing that I've dealt with from the very early years of my life. I am a classic walking, talking, left brain, right brain conflict. I have this business side of me, and I have this artsy side of me. To kind of understand that a little better, let's go back a little further to another May, 50 years ago. I was in Grove, Oklahoma, graduating from Grove Public High School. I had learned to play what I thought was a pretty mean electric guitar. I was playing in a band. I had a Beatle haircut. They wouldn't let the hair on the back of your neck touch your collar yet. That was one of the rules at the school, but all the boys had Beatle bangs in the front. But more importantly than that, I had learned to write songs. And I just was consumed by that. I still remember the first time that I figured out the singer didn't always write the song. Somebody else did that. And I wanted to do it. And I just lived for it. I loved it. But I also, that other side of my brain, the practical side, the left-hand side, had it drilled into me that you can't make a living doing that kind of thing. You got to have a real job. So I came to Oklahoma State not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. Now, let me back up one little bit. There wasn't any doubt where I was going, okay, because I was cowboy to the core from the very beginning. My mother and father were 4-H club leaders. They had dragged me up here to 4-H roundup so many times I knew the campus backwards and forwards. My older brother Ed and his wife Linda went to school here. Eventually my younger brother and his wife Connie went to school here. My beautiful wife Pam and both of her sisters went to school here. And over half of my nieces and nephews have gone to school at Oklahoma State. So I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew where I was going to do it. So when I came here, I ended up somewhere along the line, someone told me if you want to be an attorney, which I kind of thought I did, don't major in pre-law, major in business, because you're going to need that more than you're going to need the other. And that's where I took my first accounting course. And I know this is incredibly hard for a lot of you to believe, but I actually enjoyed it. I loved it. I found something that I liked to do. And for the next 6 years, I studied accounting. It took me 6 years because I had a real problem. I couldn't quite get rid of the music thing, and I kept playing in bands and writing songs, and it took me 6 years to kind of figure out the balance between academics, music, and alcohol. And it just took a while for that to figure out. But at the end of those 6 years, I had a bachelor's and a master's and a wife and 2 kids. And the next step in my life was to take a job with a public accounting firm in Dallas. And I learned a couple of really big lessons in that. One, I learned that liking to study accounting does not necessarily translate into liking to do accounting. I was miserable, just plain and simple miserable. I got stuck in an audit job, and I hated it worse than throwing hay bales in a hay bale field. But the other thing that came out of that trip to Dallas was I discovered a different kind of music. I discovered that mixture of country and rock that Texas was doing at that point in time. It was Waylon and Willie, you know their names, but it was also people like Jerry Jeff Walker and people like B.W. Stevenson, Michael Martin Murphy, who were the predecessors of a lot of the people that still are an important part of Texas and Oklahoma music, like Stoney LaRue, and people that came from Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's had a big influence on red dirt music, cross-Canadian ragweed, and on and on and on. That music really got me fired up again as a writer. So I left the audit job, went to work for the Federal Reserve, which I said this morning was kind of like going from a full-time job or time where you were working 30 hours overtime to having a half-time job. So I had a lot more time to get that guitar out and play and write music. A few years later found me here at Oklahoma State because in 1974, I decided to come back and work on a PhD. But in the meantime, I was writing songs all the time. And another thing that happened was that left brain, right brain thing again. I was writing the songs, but also I started to wonder, how do you get paid? How does this thing work? They call it the music business. I thought I understood the music, but I sure didn't understand the business. I didn't understand how something went from my brain onto a piece of paper, put some music with it, and eventually end up a check coming in the mail. And I read every book that existed about the music business, and back then there weren't that many. But I tried as I could, best I could, to learn how to do the music. So I came back here at Oklahoma State, enrolled as a PhD candidate, but I was working constantly on the music the full time. In fact, a little known secret is that most of the demos, and well, in fact, almost every demo that I carried to Nashville was recorded right here at the Oklahoma State University Library. In the library at that point in time was the audiovisual department, and I met a kid named Scott Hendricks who wanted to be a recording engineer, and we would sneak in there and record demos that eventually went to Nashville. You couldn't get too loud, of course, and we couldn't do drums and lots of bass, but we made demos that went to Nashville. And in 1975, I made my first trip to Nashville, and I took a handful of songs that I thought were just so great. I was so afraid someone was going to steal them from me. But you know, they didn't seem to think they were quite as great as I thought they were. Now, I did have a couple of people say, I see some talent here, and I think there's something that you can do, but I don't think you're quite there yet. So I went home and I worked again, still doing the accounting thing, but also working on the music side. And in 1976, I got my first song cut. Someone actually took a song of mine, recorded it, and put it on the radio. I'm sure most of you remember the song. It was a song called A Good Old-Fashioned Saturday Night Honky Tonk Barroom Brawl. I don't hear a hoarse cry of recognition coming anywhere from the crowd. I was pretty sure it was going to be a #1 hit. It went to 42, but it got me enthused again. I'm over here working on accounting projects, but I'm going home and I'm dreaming and I'm thinking about music. And in 1977, that next spring, on a spring break, I walked into UT Nashville, had a downtown university at that point in time, a night school for adults. I walked in without an appointment and asked to talk to the head of the accounting department. And Charles Rowland was nice enough to let me into his office. And I told him, I said, I'm a PhD candidate at Oklahoma State. I'm almost finished my coursework. And I'm thinking I might want to move here after I finish up my coursework while I'm working on my dissertation. And first of all, he said, don't do that, because everybody says don't ever walk away if all you like is the dissertation. They call it ABD. He tried to talk me out of it, but when I explained to him I had a wife and 2 kids, and I really thought I was going to have to do it, he was nice enough to take my phone number and my name. I didn't mention the songwriting thing, because I didn't want to confuse the issue. I got back to Nashville, and about 4 weeks later, the phone rang, and it was Charles Rowland. And he said, we talked the other day, and he said, I can't remember when you said you were going to be ready to come to Nashville, but I just had someone who I had hired to start in the summer school, and they quit. and they backed out on me. Would you be available in June? Now, what more of a sign from God could you want than that right there when you get right down to it? I just immediately knew this is the time I need to go do this. So I went and talked to my committee the next morning. I asked for a 2-year leave of absence from the PhD program, and I went to Nashville thinking that in 2 years I would either be rich and famous or I would come back home and finish up my degree and learn to smoke a pipe better than I could currently smoke it and become a college professor for the rest of my life. 2 years went by and I hadn't accomplished much. In fact, I had 3 or 4 more songs cut, but none of them were singles, and they didn't make enough money to feed a family of 4 for sure. So I was getting ready to come back to Nashville, and a friend of mine, I told him, I said, I've given myself 2 years, and told him the story of getting the leave of absence. And he said, why did you ask for a 2-year leave of absence? And I said, well, I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing to do. And he said, why didn't you ask for 3? And I said, well, he said, I think you ought to get 1 more because I think you're very close. So the very next morning I called again and I got another year. And in that next year I had 3 #1 songs. I had moved to Vanderbilt University and was teaching there. And my first #1 was actually a song that I wrote when I was here in Stillwater, driving back and forth between Nashville and Tulsa. And the second one was the biggest hit that Alabama, biggest pop hit that they ever had, a song called Love in the First Degree. The third song was the song that my mother really got upset every time they introduced me by telling them that I wrote this song. But it became the anthem for every divorced man in America. It was called She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft. At that point in time, that wasn't a true song, but it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And my ex-wife now owns half the copyright to that song, but we're not going to go there, I promise, okay? I'm going to move quickly because from there, my career just kind of went crazy and took off. I went through a period of time, I got about 25, 30 songs that were recorded as singles. I began a career as a producer. I put together a band called Restless Heart, which was mainly with guys from Oklahoma. We did 4 gold albums together. I got involved in artist management and started a management company, a division of a big West Coast company called Fitzgerald Hartley, and we managed Restless Heart and Vince Gill and Radney Foster. And then in early '89, I got a phone call from an attorney. He said, there's a guy named Clive Davis that would like to talk to you about starting a record company for him in Nashville. Now, I didn't have in my dream anywhere, any way that I could have ever imagined that I would ever run a record company. But I sure as to heck knew who Clive Davis was. He was the guy who signed Bob Dylan, who signed Janis Joplin, who signed Bruce Springsteen. He'd had a book that was called Life in the Music Business, Inside the Music Business. And I wanted to meet him. So I took the appointment, and lo and behold, I got the job. And in 1989, I took the job I didn't have an office, I didn't have a phone, I didn't have a secretary, I didn't have anything. And we started from a cold start. The first album that we put out in early 1990 was on a guy named Alan Jackson. Now, here's a little tip for you. If you ever want to start a record company, get yourself an Alan Jackson. It makes things a lot easier, okay? But we were off to the races with Alan, and in the next 18 months, between Alan and 18 months, we broke Brooks and Dunn, Diamond Rio, and Pam Tillis, all of which went on to be multi-platinum acts. So we had 4 multi-platinum acts in less than 2 years. And then that vaulted us ahead to the #2 label in all of Nashville, and we stayed there for the entire decade of the 90s. It was a wonderful, wonderful time and a wonderful experience. But it was something that I was not prepared for. I had never dreamed that I could do something like that. But I just kept my heart open and my mind open, and I used that right and left hand side of my brain. because I loved music. I still thought the song was the most important thing, but I also realized that art has to intersect with commerce or it doesn't work. So you've got to have that blend of things that work. I went on from that situation to manage Keith Urban. I ran the Gaylord assets for all their entertainment assets for a while. I started another record label that didn't do well. I proved that I wasn't foolproof. We started a company called Universal South, and the only really good thing that I can say came out of that is that we signed a little band from up here in Stillwater called Cross Canadian Ragweed. Gave them their first record label, and if you don't know how to sing The Boys from Oklahoma Roll Their Joints All Wrong, you do not deserve to have a good degree from Oklahoma State University. That wonderful career led me to a career of consulting, okay, and public speaking. And today, what I want to leave you with real quickly is what some people call, what I call Tim's rules, okay? I want you to remember that you think you've got it figured out, or maybe you don't have it figured out. Either way is okay. If you don't think you got it figured out, don't panic, because it's going to come at you, and you're going to have lots of different opportunities. If you do think you've got it figured out, it's probably going to change several times as you go through this life. 9 little things to remember, okay? Work hard, be honest, don't get greedy, okay? Pretty obvious. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. Good hard work is good for the soul. Be honest. You know the great thing about the truth is it's easy to keep your story straight. Tell the truth when you can. And the third thing about don't get greedy, when I look back at my life, almost always when I made a mistake, it was because I got greedy. It was because I got greedy, not necessarily for money, because you can get greedy for love, you can get greedy for power, and you can get greedy for fame. Take your time, let life come to you, and take it as you earn it. 2, people almost always live up to or down to your expectations. As you go through life, it's a team sport, folks. And the people you surround yourself, who you pick as your partners, expect the best out of them. And they will feel that. If you don't, if they recognize that you don't trust them, they'll live down to your expectations. Number 3, hire great people and empower them. When you're at your level, sometimes that means pick good friends. Pick partners carefully. But when you pick somebody to work with and put them on your team, do everything that you can to make them the best that they can be, and that will bring the best out in you. Don't waste time being critical of yourself. There's plenty of people waiting in line to do that, and you don't need to be one of them. Nobody spends as much time exploring your mistakes and your screw-ups as you do. Number 7, we live in a world that is changing so rapidly that being called an expert in anything only means you used to know how to do it. When you walk out of here with that degree, you're going to have to change constantly. You're going to have to accept the fact that whatever your profession is, there's always going to be a learning experience. There's always going to be something coming at you. Number 8, try to believe in your heart that there's an unlimited amount of growth in good in you and everyone that you meet. Almost everybody, you can pull that growth out of them. You can pull that goodness out of them, and you can play a big part in that. But number 9 is what I want to leave you with today. Whenever possible, refuse to work with jerks. When I do this thing called Feed the Fire, which is for creative organizations, and when I do it in a little less formal setup, why I usually substitute a part of the human body for the word jerks. But today we'll stick with jerks, okay? Life is too short to work with jerks. If it's a boss and he's a jerk, start looking for another job. Let me say one other thing. Everybody can have a bad day, okay? I'm not talking about that. Some people can have a bad week. But if you're working with somebody who's having a bad life and they're forcing it on you, get out of there, okay? And if this has to do with marital harmony, I don't intend for it to. That's not what I'm talking about. But in the job world, you need to make sure that you put yourself in the situation where you feel good about getting up and going to work every day. That's what makes for a life well lived. There is great wisdom in the old saying, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. Get that person out of your organization, get them out of your life, and go Pokes. Oh, that wasn't right, was it? Go Pokes.
Yeah, I've worked with some jerks in my day. Never here. Never here. Tim, we really appreciate it, and congratulations on all your success. You make us very proud to know you're a graduate of Oklahoma State. We do want to recognize our honors college graduates that are receiving their honors college degrees today. OSU confers an honors hood on these students and recognizes their outstanding academic accomplishments, and they are outstanding. Students receiving the honors degrees who are denoted in the program also, but please stand so we can recognize you, along with your Dean, Keith Garbett. Congratulations. And in recognition of outstanding scholastic achievement, it is now our pleasure to recognize the newest members of the OSU chapter of Phi Kappa Phi who are wearing Phi Kappa Phi cords to denote this distinction. This is an honorary scholastic fraternity and is reserved for those in the upper 10% of their class. Would the Phi Kappa Phi students please stand? Phi Beta Kappa is the nation's oldest and most widely known academic honor and society. It is the leading advocate of excellence in the liberal arts and sciences. Only 10% of the national institutions of higher learning have Phi Beta Kappa chapters. This is OSU's fourth year to induct students, and we believe the numbers of Phi Beta Kappa members at OSU will continue to grow. This is primarily for arts and sciences majors, but there are some who major in both colleges. Do we have any Phi Beta Kappa members here today? There we are. Yeah, great. Congratulations. Among the graduates today, we're privileged to have individuals who spent long hours training in our Reserve Officer Training Program. These individuals represent the future of the United States military, either on active duty in the reserves or as members of the Guard. They will be newly commissioned second lieutenants in the Army or the Air Force. For this ceremony, will Ryan Santapinter please stand and be recognized? Thank you for pledging your service to our country, Ryan. Before we present the candidates for degrees, I would like you to join me in recognizing a very special group of people without whose efforts this graduation would not be possible. Will the faculty representing Oklahoma State University this afternoon please stand and let us thank you for your service to our students. There's one additional group I would like to recognize and honor today. Would all the mothers in the audience please stand so we may thank you? Graduates, I hope you will honor and thank your mothers not only tomorrow on Mother's Day, but throughout the year. And your mom and dad are maybe getting a raise today as a result of your graduation. Okay, at this time we will begin the recognition of the degree candidates by college. As you know, during this afternoon's program, we're recognizing candidates of the College of Human Sciences and the College of Engineering, Architecture, and Technology. I want to advise that we have professional photographers taking pictures of each candidate during the ceremonies. At the conclusion of the program, the students will recess to the South Plaza, that's that way, of Boone Pickens Stadium, where we invite you to join your graduate. Platforms have been set up so you can take all the pictures you like. We respectfully ask you not to come on the arena floor. Please remember today that the last candidate across the stage is just as important as the first. Members of our Board of Regents and the state regents will join me in congratulating all the students this afternoon as the deans assist with their college. Students, we ask that once you have made your graduation walk, please return to your seat and remain seated till the end of the ceremony. To commemorate your participation in the ceremony today, each of you will receive a printable watercolor painting of the Edmund Lowe Library done by Professor of Architecture Mo Babisi. Each college selected an outstanding representative student to lead their college processional and to be on the stage with the dean. I would now like to introduce the Dean of the College of Engineering, Architecture, and Technology, Dr. Paul Tukowski. Paul will be congratulating the candidates, assisted by Associate Dean Raman Singh. The college's gonfalon was carried by Lacey Greening from Salina, Texas. She's a candidate for a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering and management.
Yes, she is. Cole Whittington.
Aaron Bowman.
Stephen Brander Asplin.
Joe Brunig.
Cole Thomas Stratman.
Harley Dion Richardson.
Julia E. Ashton.
Zachary Donald Goodwin.
Micah Wilshire.
David Charles Harp.
Jason Glenn Hawk.
Matthew Jordan Simon.
Camlin Zanardelli.
Skylar Turner.
Tressa Lynn Obert.
Andrew Blake Barrow.
Mustafa Alsada.
Michael Paul Fitzner.
Jonah David Lund.
Bryce Michael Clannon.
Justin Michael Olson.
Russell Morrow.
Weston John Childers.
Jared Feller.
Corbin Trayshawn Diaz.
Daniel Nicole Miles.
Sam Edward Bosley.
Heidi Christine Wallace.
James Lucas Kaysen.
Alyssa Carol Baker.
Adam Richard Danielson.
Warren Stewart.
Connor J. Bailiff.
Eli Tecumseh Shepherd.
William Troy Dobbins.
Adrian Sines.
Jordan Mobbs.
Jonathan Drew Fisher.
Victoria Hutchison.
Kevin Tho.
Ari Dahl.
Whitney Carol Strong.
John Gregory Grundman.
Amanda Ann Lebsack.
Matthew Williams.
Alexandra Zink.
Jared Eugene Dizador.
Vishali Vasudevan.
Tommy Leroy Ray.
Derek Murky.
Kaylin Willingham.
Alana Correll Clark.
Melissa Espinoza Woosley.
Jacob T. Simpson.
Jonathan Bo Potter.
Samuel Eugene Bretz.
Zachary Philip Baker.
Charles Caleb Axtell.
Nathan Gertz.
Carrington James Hill.
Kyle Eggeman.
Claire Van Beek.
Clay McAllister.
Ashley Marie Smith.
John Robert Savage.
Patrick Lippett.
Chase Morgan Craig.
John Wesley Thompson.
Justin Watley.
Alex Pope.
Daniel Brown.
Philip Shane Spruill.
Ryan Wynn Hodges.
Cody Alexander Ewing.
David Salim.
Jacob Alexander Brown.
Mohammed Abdel Raouf Masweda.
Bailey Evan Bruns.
Kyle Allen Stead.
Amber Kirkland.
Ahmad Alishi.
Jeremy Don Wilson.
Ryan Lothy.
Connor Montgomery Teal.
Kylie Tan.
Noom Alexandra Graham.
Joshua Sorensen.
Ashley Nicole Warren.
Christopher Welsh.
Megan Renee Henderson.
Chris Allen Ashwood Jr.
Amanda Harvey.
McLean Don Robinson.
Ryan Santa Pinter.
Nathaniel Douglas Crawford.
Leticia Tenorio Gomez.
Maurice Alexander II.
Thomas Jacob Manol.
William Wood.
David Guadalupe Zigala.
Clinton Winterroth.
Kyler Austin Page.
Brandon Pruitt.
Aaron Damone Holden.
Brett Brown.
Michael Scott Carpenter.
Tough Wade Eddie Hodge.
Wendy Elise Ward.
Grayson Strathman.
Landon Hess.
Ryan Arnold Plummer.
Marcus Whelan.
Matthew Snyder.
Scott Christopher Calloway.
Ryan Michael Smith.
Nick Puma.
Motlaq Alatabi.
Parker King.
Adib Al-Gumdi.
Luke David Wilson.
Dylan Garaki.
Luke Summers.
Daryl Garrison.
Zach Zafar.
Frank Gus Hale Gagliardi.
David White.
William Lawrence Smith.
Mason Anthony Lusich.
Chase Helen.
Raymond L. Wilcox.
Spencer Summerlin.
Jake Morris.
Tyler Eugene Hurst.
Craig Colborn.
Daniel Reese Barnett.
Adam Alexander Fitzgerald.
Cody Lane Williams.
Eli Herzog.
Kate Elizabeth Bernhardt.
Samuel Glenn Ziga.
Kyle Jonathan Crawford.
Mason Kinchelo.
Andrew Seth Relio.
Tyler Estrada.
Jeffrey Douglas Peppers.
Tanner Weeze.
Ling Wei Yu.
Amy Donnell Altman.
Adam Hosini.
Marshall Thomas McDougall.
Peter Joseph Glockenmeyer.
Ryan Coleman Adams.
Naaman Mather.
Zachary Charles Chandler.
Hao Young Yi Penn.
Garrett Michael Todd.
Daniel Jerome Welkley.
James Colin Duke.
David Lee Wolf.
Robert Edward Dunlap.
Jesse Michael Warren.
Brian Joseph Garcia.
Justin Michael Mott.
Derek Bobby Moats.
Elizabeth Marie Williams.
Keith Caleb Henderson.
William Tyler Buser.
Weston Scott Roberts.
Clarissa Faith Hoskison.
Joseph Allen Skovanek.
Austin Kenneth Turner.
Rachel Alexis Walmsley.
Spencer Thomas Wilson.
Andrea Morgan Hahn.
Sarah Ann Thomas.
Mandy May Blinn.
Bailey Morgan Brown.
Jose Granos Fabregas.
Blake David Mitchell.
William Jacob Wolf.
Valentina Scalia.
Justin Wayand.
Dawson Clark.
Brandon Milliken.
Hunter Lee Heinrich.
Fabian Clarkson.
Austin McLean Mitchell.
Kayvon Ozartosh Naman.
Christopher Joseph Healy.
Jacob Stephen.
Binwoo John Hom.
John Mark McBride.
James J. Alfred Putnam III.
Travis Wayne Estes.
Jennifer Taylor Lane.
Zaid Safwan Nabilsi.
Zachary Brian Burson.
Matthew Pottinger.
Bradley John Ellsbury.
Sean Madison Parson.
Alec Hunter McDaniel.
Thomas Tanner Given.
Midiana Quintera.
Logan Andrew Bain.
Cole Griffin.
Brandon Christopher Hadwiger.
Michael Ryan Edge.
Hayden Thomas Daniel.
Ayat Al Nasser.
John Robert Osdenmore.
Alex Mutua Kathilu.
Christian Matthew Juarez.
Kevin Thomas Seitz.
Dylan Hepner.
Ye Sheng Ye.
Jeffrey Allen Sandwell.
Yang Jia.
Kees Yakub Al-Kasabi.
Troy Michael Jensen.
Muhammad Al-Kandari.
Austin Reed Walker.
Abdullah Bagais.
Sheldon McCracken.
Preston, bring on the good times, Bartley.
Kobe Iliff.
Scott Nolan Hollis.
Brian Bateman.
Aaron Browning Kirkpatrick.
Joel Garrett Vandeweert.
Chase Beans Adams.
Hayden James Lennon.
Peyton Reed Miller.
Nathaniel Philip Enns.
Alexander Jacob Monahan.
Jessica Lauren Robertson.
Samuel Robert Dyken.
Paul Joseph Rosenkrantz.
Callan Michael Loshi.
Connor Jeffrey Mojo.
Jacob Joseph Duffy.
Nicole B. Claros.
Stuart Angleton.
Megan Kaori Douglas.
Drew Douglas Schmidt.
Daniel Robert Anderson.
Larson Lemuel Carter.
Thompson Thomas.
Clay Garrett Newton.
Dylan Chin.
Jacob Beaufort.
Shauna Lee.
David Austin Heidinger.
Hal Pan.
John Thomas Hyatt.
Shuai Shao.
Kelsey Dupner.
Caitlin Michelle Hudson.
Aaron Talley.
Alejandro Karstens Katori.
Matthew Hobbs.
Yandong Tang.
Cash Robert Hamilton.
Kyle Eric Lake.
Kevin Webb.
Caleb Deck.
Joshua James Cole.
John Jester.
Paige Elizabeth Cloud.
Moad Abadiah.
Carol Joy Abraham.
Megan Lee Kegley.
Jordan Elizabeth Thomas.
Austin Scott McCarthy.
Stephen Allen Ogle.
Olivia Marie Broussard.
Abigail Maria Hayes.
Abigail Parnell.
Elise Merkel.
Taylor Johnson.
Riley Bear.
Taylor Conley.
Colin Nicholas Britton.
Seth Charles Cleary.
Reed Jason Basti.
Guy Barker.
Spencer Clayton Bright.
Carson Bryan. Robert Honeyman.
Andeshay Dogger.
Luke Stambaugh.
Alexandra Nicole McPeak.
Cody Lee.
Jake Humphreys.
Sterling Parker Olive.
Thomas Patrick Lick.
Courtney Bromenshank.
Jonathan Daniel Luscombe.
Brandy Parks.
Iram Khan.
Parker Rice.
Brianna Michelle Reeves.
Kevin Andrew Thomas.
Ethan Bain Nall.
Bradley Allen McNeely.
Jenna Nicole Pisarski.
Jacob Bertrand.
Grace Catherine Harrell.
Jake Nichols.
Kelly Pham Nugent.
Madison Marie Likens.
Andrea Louise Osmus.
Nicholas Marcus Ritchie.
Daniel Benjamin Montoto.
Larry Wayne Haygood.
Neil Fabian.
Matthew Wade Riley.
Jesse Jeremy Spence.
Luke Martin Edwards.
Gray Laughlin.
Andrew Michael Parham.
Dakota Ryan Murdoch.
Tyler Ryan Webb.
Christopher James Bynum.
Trevor Harley Taylor.
Shannon Henry Miori.
Charles Spencer Noakes.
Austin A. Satterfield.
Nathan Van Triest.
Jason Allen Rice.
Blake Lane Brom.
Ryan Demis Johnson.
Christopher Jamal Hill.
Lindsay Noel Bennett.
Sherelle Orange.
Brian Haskell Rhodes.
Jalen Golfin.
Michael Witten.
Joseph Jerome Marini Brown.
Hunsick Seo.
Aaron Jameson Yeck.
Mark Davis.
Kyle Jeffrey Wanzer.
Tanner Town.
Marcus Paul Kellert.
Shay Bailey.
Colton Lane Burge.
Austin Hibbs.
Dylan Lee Bresney.
Stephen Hurley.
Andrew Paul Mai.
Ryan Andrew Cox Hauser.
Jackson Thomas Drum.
Justin Celestino Mays.
Eric Cunningham.
Chance David Roscoe Dice.
Wade Scott Woodward. Woodard.
Zachary Callaghan.
Cameron Mitchell Beckman.
Braden Kelleher.
Douglas John Capel.
Michael Kenneth Gottwald.
Benjamin Kyle Browning.
Blake Schlesinger.
Trevor Joseph Eckert.
Matt Litchfield.
Catherine Hobble.
Benjamin James Jesperson.
Carly Reeves.
Robert Bloomfield. Ben Wellington. Nathan Harlow Lee. Matthew Way DeConing. Stephen Gregory Powers.
Will all the candidates please rise? On the recommendation of the respective faculties and deans of the colleges, and with the approval of the Board of Regents of Oklahoma State University and the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education, it is my distinct privilege as President of Oklahoma State to confer on each of you the degree for which you have been recommended, and to invest you with all the rights, honors, privileges, and obligations pertaining thereto. Congratulations, and please change the tassel on your... You did it. I hope you know how proud we are of your accomplishments, and I hope you will remain loyal and true to your alma mater. Come back to campus as often as you can, and always bring money, and wear bright orange, the brightest orange, every chance you get. As new alumni, may the words which you're about to sing take on a very special and lasting meaning for all of you as we join in singing the alma mater hymn led by Charles Rich.
Proud and immortal, bright shines your name, Oklahoma State, we herald your fame. Ever you'll find us loyal and true to our alma mater, OSU.
Thank you for coming to OSU's 133rd commencement. The student recessional will be after the platform party and faculty recess. It will take them outside to Boone Pickens Stadium on the South Plaza. Family and friends, we encourage you to join your graduates there. Congratulations, you did it, and go Pokes!